Yeah. I'm confused. I'm just as confused, okay? I don't even, where do I start? Where do I begin? Okay. So, quick backstory. I've been at this base for a year in DFW. However, when I first got here, every single flight that I worked for at least the first like month and a half straight, a flight attendant will always be like, oh yeah, like watch out here because there's a lot of snitches. And I'm like, the first time I heard it, I was like, what? They were like, yeah, there are flight attendants who will snitch on you. And I'm like, okay. Then I kept hearing it. They're snitches, beware, snitches, 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 snitches. And there were even flight attendants who would tell me, yes, there are people who snitch. Here are a list of people who are on my do not bid list. And of course, I write down those names because I'm like, okay, good to know. Then there would be more people who would say, yes, these people are also on my do not bid list. I know if you and the other flight attendant are vibing, everything is good, ask them, hey, do you have anybody on your do not bid list? And put them on your do not bid list when you have a chance, okay? There's not really any flight attendant that actually there's one. There's one flight attendant that, no, I don't want to work with ever again. And it's not Miss Trenchbull, it's not, like, that was fine, but there was one. And I'll save that story time for another day, just remind me. Anyways, so I worked a flight on a Tuesday. Yeah, it was a Tuesday. And it was a short flight. It was just a quick turn going to like Shreveport, Louisiana and back. That's like a 30-minute flight, right? When I got to the airport, we ended up being delayed by 2 hours because there was a winter storm. I mean, not a winter storm. There was a storm and we had to wait for like the lightning to go away. And then it was a lot going on. So we had to wait 2 hours. But regardless, quick, 30 minutes there, boom, 30 minutes back. Very next day, I wake up to an email from my supervisor, okay? And it states, let's pull it up, shall we? While I'm doing that, go ahead and like the video, okay? And subscribe, come on. Okay, so the message states, hey, I hope you're doing well. I recently received a peer complaint regarding flight number on Tuesday. The complaint stated there was either a huge puddle of water left underneath the galley carts or the beer and wine drawer was filled with water. I spent the whole flight cleaning up the spill. There was also trash in the cart behind the trash bin. I'm not sure how long that has been left back there, but it was disgusting. Then it says, please respond to this message, basically in the next 24 hours, with any recollection of this interaction. I truly appreciate your time. Thank you. Y'all, I'm really confused because I don't know what she's talking about. Let's start there. Like, I don't know. I truly don't know what she's talking about, whoever wrote this complaint, because it's talking about the flight that I took from Louisiana and back. I was a forward flight attendant. However, number one, there was only like 20 people on that flight. The aft flight attendant didn't do service. So basically there wasn't enough trash for her, like, what trash? There was 20 people on the plane and I literally took care of like 3 people in first class, and that was probably a total of what? 6 drinks, and I don't even think everybody ordered a drink. So I'm like, what is she talking about trash? That's number one. Then number two, she said that there was ice that melted. However, When we got catered, I asked for 1 bag of ice, which went in like a separate area. So it wasn't at the bottom, it was in a different area, right? If anything, it would be that area where the ice would have melted, but she said it was a cart at the bottom. Mind you, the flight that I took, I did a turn, however, the rest of the crew went to Durango after that. I don't know how long the plane was sitting in between the Louisiana flight coming back and the Durango flight, but she was on the Durango flight. Who knows how many hours before they took off. So basically, this is what happened. Came back, I'm assuming the catering people came and put the ice there, and then however long in between that gap, it might have been 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever the case may be, but it was a long sit to where the ice melted. By the time that this flight attendant got on the plane, she's sitting there with a bucket of water instead of a bucket of ice. So, understandable, makes sense as to how that happened. Now, as far as the trash, I have no idea what she's talking about with the trash, because I'm like, girl, there was all of 3 cups thrown away out of that whole flight, so there couldn't have been trash. My whole thing is, girl, our boy, because I don't know who wrote this complaint, I just know it was another flight attendant. The fact that you were so upset that you had to write a complaint? Oh, like what? That's crazy. I'm not really a person that gets triggered like that to the point where I'm going to physically, like, not only did you clean up that stuff, but the next day it's still heavy on your heart that you're gonna write a whole paragraph to the supervisor that then has to forward it to me and ask me what happened. Like, bruh. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's crazy. And honestly, I'm just curious, like, did you want me to get written up for that? Did you want me to get fired? Like, what was the end goal on the flight attendant who complained? What was the end goal on their end? I don't know, because I've never had a complaint before, so that was like alarming to get an email from a supervisor. I'm like, what? So I sent the email back pretty much stating like the flight was too short to even have a bunch of trash and melted ice, so this had to have happened after I left, pretty much. Like, that's pretty much what I said in the email. That was just weird. Like, I just feel like that complaint was from somebody who writes a complaint like that is the type of person who doesn't feel like cooking, so they go to Chick-fil-A and order food, and then when they get home, they realize they didn't get any sauce. So they go all the way back to Chick-fil-A, ask for the manager, get mad, they get a free meal, then they fill out a survey and complain that they didn't get their sauce because they're still upset. Whole time, all that energy that they spent complaining and writing that survey, they could have used that energy to cook a meal. So that's what it gave. So that was essentially my first complaint from another peer. However, I'm glad I was able to clear that up. You know, also I want to say that like my supervisors are very cool. We have 3 and I've met all of them. I've worked with one, like, cause they're also flight attendants. One of the supervisors that I work with, she didn't tell me she was a supervisor until like day 2 of a 4-day. So I was like, okay, this is nerve-wracking, but at the same time, she was actually cool. So she was cool. And then I met the other 2 like in different scenarios, not like flying. Everyone was essentially welcoming. They were all laid back, very informative. There definitely wasn't a like micromanaging vibe or like I'm better than you or like demanding respect type of vibe. So that's what I can appreciate. So when they sent me that email, I know that it was coming from a place of like, hey, let me hear your side of the story, not so much like, you did this, you're in trouble. It wasn't like that. That's one thing that I can say when it comes to the company, when it comes to like complaints, concerns, or anything of that nature, they will take a moment to gather your side of the story and gather, you know, let's say the passenger side of the story or another flight attendant side of the story. Like basically just being concerning on all ends and not just playing the blaming game or just, you know, pointing the finger at one person. So that's one thing that I will say that I do appreciate with this job. That was the story time. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys want to talk about in future videos, and I will see you in the next one.